Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming along to this webinar this morning, where we will be discussing some results from the health insurance market in Ireland, from research that was conducted at the beginning of 2015 and then also some research that we conducted at the end of 2014. My name is Gerard Farrell. I am a Senior Client Advisor with Global Reviews, and I would like to welcome you to this webinar this morning. If it is the first webinar that you've ever attended with us, and this webinar will be 30 minutes in session, and at the very end of the webinar we will give the opportunity for people who would like to ask some questions. So as you move through the webinar, if you have some questions, please write them down, make a note of them, and at the end of the webinar I will give an opportunity for people to ask those questions. So, as I said, we're going to be talking about the health insurance industry in Ireland, and particularly interesting at the moment because of community rating, which is coming in at the 1st of May. So the results that we're looking at are both timely but also very interesting from the point of view of the evolution of the market and the changes in how the market in Ireland is operating from a health insurance point of view. I would like to get straight into the data and to look at 4 key different data points or information from the research that we conducted in February 2015 and the results from August 2014 as well. I'm going to talk a little bit later about the methodology and how we came about these results, but I wanted to get straight into the meat and to give examples of some interesting findings that we have from the results that we're going to be looking at today. The first one is looking at the 4 brands on screen, and starting off with LAYA. We asked people who were current customers of LAYA in February whether they would renew with LAYA again. And what we can see is that 71% of those who are current customers of LAYA in February 2015 would renew with them again, whereas the score in August 2014 was 76%, so a slight decrease. For VHI, 69% of those who are current customers of VHI in February 2015 would renew with them again in August 2014, which was 61%. So there is a slight increase in terms of VHI's performance. For GLOHEALTH, we have 53% of those who are current customers of GLOHEALTH in February 2015 would renew with them again, where the same result in August 2014 was 83%. So we have a significant drop in numbers for GLOHEALTH. Now, it is important to state that obviously GLOHEALTH are the smallest of all of the providers in the marketplace, and the number of people who are currently members of GLOHEALTH is much lower. So therefore sample sizes will be a lot lower as well, so variance will also be a lot lower, but we will be looking at the exact sample sizes later on, so you'll be able to see what this variance is. However, the key message is that there is a significant drop. For Aviva, 55% of those who are current customers of Aviva in February 2015, would renew with them again. In August 2014, this was 72%. So we're also seeing a drop for Aviva, and the numbers are much bigger with Aviva, so these numbers, there's less of a variance in terms of margin. And so it's very interesting to see this large drop for Aviva at such a crucial time in the health insurance industry in Ireland's lifetime. VHI are the only brand who have increased retention, whereas the other brands are losing some people and have some level of churn. So that is very interesting with regards to what's going on in the marketplace. So taking that top level of data, that's the kind of stuff that we're going to be looking at this morning, and we're going to start off by introducing what we call the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program. Now, the end-to-end proprietary funnel that Global Reviews has developed that we use in all of our industries around the world and the 21 different industries that we work in, the Digital Marketing program is the first step in this end-to-end funnel. It covers what we call the discover phase. We relook at how easily customers can find you, your website, and how strong your attraction is to them. Essentially what we're measuring is from search engine all the way through to doorstep of website. So that moves from the discover phase into the consider phase. We are going to be looking at what happens between the consider phase and the act phase later on when we look at the Digital Sales Effectiveness Program. But we're going to be starting off with the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program. So what is the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program and how does it work? So first of all, we recruit through partnerships with online panel providers respondents to fill out and participate in surveys. In each individual Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program, we invite 200 in-market consumers to participate in an online survey. Those consumers are recruited through online panels I mentioned before, and in market is people who state that they are open to or looking to buy or open a product in that market within the next 90 days. So for example, these are switchers of health insurance providers, so they're moving from one health insurance provider to another, or they are new entrants into the market and have never had health insurance before. But what is key is that they are in market. So these people are actively looking for a health insurance provider. That means that we are representing the small proportion of the consumer base if we did a survey of 1,000 who would be in market. And so we are looking at a niche sample rather than an omnibus sample. That's the key message that I'm trying to give you. So the first thing that we do is we invite them in. We ask them a number of pre-tasks. We ask them top of mind unprompted brand awareness, and we ask them, based on the top of mind unprompted brand awareness, what brands would they prefer at this stage. We also ask a number of questions around what is it that's important to them when they're looking for a health insurance provider in the market, and some other bits and pieces as well. We then set them the blank screen test or the blank screen study, where we take them to a blank screen on the internet with a URL box at the top, and we ask them to search for a health insurance provider. We do not influence in any way where they start, and literally they put in the link into the URL box of where they would like to go to find their health insurance provider. They can go to search engines, they can go to websites, they can go to third-party research sites, they can go to aggregators. The key thing is, though, that we're measuring passively everything that they're doing while they're completing the blank screen study, which means that we are seeing every link clicked, the length of dwell time on an individual page, the keywords which are being entered into a search engine, and the websites that are ultimately visited. After they have completed the blank screen study, we invite them back into the survey, and this time what we ask them is, having completed the research task that you have now completed, who would you shortlist as a provider within the health insurance market in Ireland? So essentially it is a repertoire of brands, a shortlist. It is a list of brands, not exclusive to one brand, but multiple brands based on the research that they have completed that they would now at this stage consider as a potential provider. So that's very important, because we are now whittling down the list on the basis of education and also brand presence and brand perception, who they would choose as a potential provider. Shortlist moves to brand preference. Brand preference is the one final exclusive single provider that you would choose from the shortlist of brands that you've already created. At both the shortlist stage and the preferred brand stage, we are asking why. We are establishing what are the barriers and enablers and what are the stimulus that is driving people to actually choose one provider over another. So really what we are doing is, in a laboratory environment like all market research, we are replicating what happens in an online environment when someone comes to search for and ultimately choose a provider within this industry. So working backwards, we have the one single provider, which is created on the basis of education, research, and then also brand preference and brand perception. And stepping backwards through each individual step, we are replicating the process and the journey that they would go through as they are educating themselves about the various different providers in the market. Two key things about this actual methodology. The first one is that the areas that are highlighted in green is claimed methodology, so claimed behavior. People are poor, though, at predicting their own behavior. The limitations of asking in market research would tell us that people are poor at reporting what they did in the past and also in predicting what they would do themselves in the future. The area in the blank screen test is passive, so it's actual behavior, where we are setting them a task and we are measuring everything that they are doing. So the key thing is that this methodology is a mixed methodology, moving more towards this 360-degree view, combining both claimed and actual behavior. And so this gives us an element of passive measurement, which is added into what they claim that they would actually do themselves. It creates a more robust methodology, and also a methodology which is closer to the real truth of what is happening on a day-to-day basis within this industry as people are searching for a new provider. I also mentioned the concept of in-market. So we are talking about a niche sample, a very, very specific sample of people who are looking for a product in this market. We have removed the noise of those who are not actually looking in the market at the moment. So that's the methodology. What do we do with the methodology and how does it work? Let's get straight into some of the data. On screen in front of you, we are looking at the sales acquisition funnel. The sales acquisition funnel moves from a recall through to preferred. To quickly explain the sales acquisition funnel and then to get straight into data, recall is unprompted brand recall. Visited is the number of people who actually visited a website based on passive measurement. Shortlisted is the repertoire of brands that we talked about earlier on, and preferred is the one single brand preferred out of the shortlist. On screen in front of us we can see the 4 providers within Ireland: VHI, Aviva, LAYA Healthcare and GLOHEALTH. And what we can see with these 4 providers is we can see the funnel, the sales acquisition funnel, and how people are moving through choosing one provider over another. No major surprises that VHI is coming in with a huge unprompted brand recall, and they would most definitely be the legacy provider in this industry in Ireland and will have been around for a lot longer than some of the other brand names. LAYA 49%, Aviva coming in at 69% and GLOHEALTH 28%, and they are the newest entrant into the market. So the shape of the funnel is very interesting, and what's going to jump out straight away is that Aviva going down to 6% for visited is a huge drop in comparison to VHI, which are maintaining 50%, and LAYA Healthcare at 34%. These are the results from August 2014. And what we can see then is the final preferred score. There is a large proportion, 28% of people who are choosing Aviva, even though they haven't visited the website. And then we have VHI coming in at 26%, and we have LAYA Healthcare coming in at 26%. And what is happening here, and the reasons why Aviva's scores are at 28%, is because the strength of the brand and also people's relationship with the brand, i.e. they may be current customers, is what's carrying people forward to continue their relationship with Aviva in the future. And that's why the results that I showed you on the first slide are really important, because they show us of those who are current customers, how many of them are planning on renewing. And we saw, though, that Aviva's scores were going down. In fact, everybody's scores were going down except for VHI. And so I would like to look a little bit further into that and to the reasons why Aviva's scores are dropping, and is there something there coming down the track in terms of Aviva's scores that would be an early warning system to tell us the reasons why Aviva's people are churning and maybe not retaining customers as much as their competitors. So looking at the February scores then in terms of what's happening in this market, we can see Aviva's unprompted brand recall has dropped from 69% to 65%. Their visited score is up marginally, but it's within the margin of error. Their shortlisted score has dropped from 73% to 66%, and their preferred score has dropped from 28% to 21%. So this is from a sample of 200 in market in February in comparison to a sample of 200 in market in August, and both of them have moved through the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program. If we look at LAYA's scores to the right hand side of Aviva on the screen, we can see LAYA's unprompted recall score has increased. We can see that the visited score has increased significantly. We can see that the shortlisted score has increased. And we can also see that the preferred score has increased significantly. So LAYA are most definitely winning in February 2015. And as we move through community rating and to the really important date of the 1st of May, that is really interesting, because these results would indicate to us that it is LAYA that is going to grab most of those new entrants coming into the market because of this new community rating system that's being brought in. We can see then with regards to GLOHEALTH and Aviva, there are some changes in scores there as well. We can see that GLOHEALTH has dropped in 3 out of the 4 categories, and that Aviva has dropped in 2 out of the 4. But Aviva are really kind of holding close. VHI are holding close in terms of their performance to August 2014. What I really would like to look at, though, is I would like to look at this visited score for 6% for Aviva in August and 8% in February. What is it that's driving this score? Why is it so low? And what impact is it actually having ultimately on the brand and brand preference? So what I'd like to talk about is this concept of an attribution model. Attribution essentially is we are trying to attribute everything that has happened or would drive someone to choose or not choose a brand. So there are multiple different things that can be in there in terms of how an attribution model might work. The first one is, we've highlighted it already, is the concept of retention. So the idea is that a person is already with a brand, and certainly in health insurance there is risk reduction. People don't want to leave their health insurance provider to find out 6 months down the road that they're not covered for what they used to be covered for with a previous provider. So moving health insurance provider can be seen as risky. So previous relationship is incredibly important within this industry. We also have online journey. So the idea being, where are they being intercepted? and what messages are they seeing when they are intercepted as they move through the digital journey. So we're looking at things like search engine, we're looking at things like aggregators, affiliate models, and we're also looking at things like advertising and search engines and banner ads and things like that. And then we have generic or more traditional advertising as well. So we have TV advertising, we have maybe billboard, we have word of mouth, we have radio. And so all of these elements then feed forward to push messaging to an in-market person to consider a particular provider. And so taking all of these different elements and touch points, I want to measure what is it that is driving the Aviva score and why are people not visiting the website. So the first thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at unprompted brand recall. And what I'm looking at is weighted unprompted brand recall. In our question, in terms of unprompted brand recall, we ask for the first 5 brands. First brand, second brand, third brand, all the way up to the 5th brand. What I've taken is I've taken the scores from first brand, second brand, and third brand, and I've weighted them. I've given the first brand a weight of 3, the second brand a weight of 2, and the third brand a weight of 1, because the first brand that is recalled is more valuable than the third brand that is recalled. And so what we can see is that the LAYA scores are increasing. This makes sense. We've seen these results already, whereas Aviva scores are decreasing between the 2 different periods. And that's very interesting. So what we can see then is that unprompted brand recall or advertising or something which is causing people to think of LAYA more, and Aviva is dropping on the other side. So in terms of how the different brand recall plays out for each of the individual brands, I would now like to delve down a little bit deeper into each of the different 1, 2, and 3 in terms of recall to see, is it a top of mind score that's dropping, the first brand that's being remembered, or is Aviva now increasingly the second or third option when it comes to brand being chosen? So we can see there's a significant drop for Aviva when you look at the second brand that's being recalled. Now we know that Aviva traditionally has the market leading position in this industry, and so that would suggest to us that Aviva would traditionally have been the number 2 brand. But what we can see here is that the number 2 brand recall has dropped from 30% to 24% for Aviva between August 2014 and January 2015. On the other side, we can see that LAYA scores has gone from 19% to 25% for the second brand recalled. So there's definitely something going on. LAYA is definitely becoming more attractive to people as an alternative option instead of a VHI. So that's an interesting finding. Let's look at the overall journey that people are taking as they're moving through the actual websites. So we can see that there's really 3 key areas that people are going through when they're searching for online for a health insurance provider. 91% of the people who participated in this research used a search engine while they were looking for a provider. This is from the passive blank screen study. 76% used a brand website, 31% used a research website. Very, very few used an aggregator, and so it's not coming up. So we're looking at 3 key touch points in terms of how people are moving through the internet when searching for a provider. If we start breaking it down, how that actual journey is taking place, we can see that 48% are going from search engine to brand website. We can see 10% are going search engine, brand website, third-party research site. Then we have 7% search engine, third-party research site, and then brand website. And then we have the search engine to third-party research site is 7%. And so the importance of the brand website is actually part of the thread that I would like to pick out here, because it's obviously hugely important. The search engine is typically the place that most people start their search. Some people will put in a URL into a search engine though and treat a search engine like it's a place to put in a URL rather than the traditional reasons why a search engine was created, which was to create some level of generic search. One of the interesting things then is we look at Google to VHI. The amount of people who are following this direct path is at 21% across these 2 periods, and then Google to LAYA Healthcare is at 11%. Google to LAYA Healthcare has increased from August 2014 to January or February 2015, and VHI has also increased as well. The Google to VHI scores have increased slightly. We're seeing a general increase in terms of recall for these 2 brands, which suggests that they may be advertising heavily during the period coming up to the community rating. So the journey of those who preferred Aviva against the entire sample. So we want to know we're trying to establish why people weren't visiting the Aviva website as much as they were, let's say, people visiting the VHI website and the LAYA healthcare website. So we want to know, what is it about these Aviva people who choose Aviva as their final preference that makes them different from the overall sample? And so looking at the differences between them, they're actually very, very similar. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at those who preferred Aviva at the end across both studies. We can see that those who ultimately prefer Aviva are slightly more likely to have visited the brand website directly than the overall sample, 6% versus 3%. Now we know that small numbers visited the Aviva website anyway, so it is going to be small, but we are definitely getting an over-index in terms of those who visit the Aviva website are going there directly rather than going through a search engine. So the relationship element with Aviva is clearly becoming more and more important. When we look at search engine though, and these are the results across both periods in terms of how people are searching. So looking at organic and paid, they are the two different colours that are in the horizontal stacked bar in front of you, we can see that Health Insurance Ireland is coming out the top as being the most important. 11.5%, 3.2%. No major surprises there. The first brand that's coming up is VHI, followed by LAYA Healthcare twice in two different iterations of the word. And then VHI comes in again later, lower down, where you have VHI Health Insurance and VHI Healthcare. The combined score of VHI is still higher than LAYA, but LAYA's score is growing. And having looked at the numbers of how LAYA has moved from August to February, we can see that there are more people searching for LAYA through the actual search terms of the brand name, which means that there is something which is prompting them to put in LAYA as a keyword when they're going to a search engine. Advertising would be the one that you would normally jump out and would give a reason for why this increase has happened. But what I'd like to look at though is, you see this Health Insurance Ireland, I've taken out the actual search engine page that gave the results during the fieldwork of the research that was completed for Health Insurance Ireland. And so what we can see is that Aviva Health Insurance is coming up in second place in terms of the ad, and it is the highest ranked in terms of SEO. But 29% of those who went in to click on Health Insurance Ireland actually clicked on LAYA Healthcare, which is underneath Aviva, and Healthcare from €9 a week, the ad on the right hand side from LAYA. The LAYA scored higher than any other brand, and we already know that Aviva's scores are low because only 6% in August and 8% in February actually went to their website. So what this is telling us is that even though Aviva has a presence on a search engine, people are still not clicking on Aviva. People are clicking on LAYA, people are clicking on VHI. And that's a really interesting thing. So that's telling us that the search engine is not delivering for Aviva, and those that prefer Aviva are not doing so because they have visited the website. So, lots on screen in front of us, but what we're looking at here now is the changes in preference for people as we move from August to February, because we're seeing that the market is evolving. So over time, reasons for final preference are increasingly about product details that meet needs. And the number that I've highlighted here, which jumps out, is I have used them before, has dropped. In August 2014, it was 35% of people who had final preference for a brand said the reason why was because they have used them before. In February, this has dropped to 30%. What has increased? That they have the best policies and offers for my needs and that they have good policy options. The rest of them are all in and around stable, not massive changes between them. However, we can see that this relationship element with the brand is starting to erode a little bit more, and it's all to play for, especially with community rating coming down the track. So that's interesting to bear in mind if you are Aviva, and we believe that a lot of the people who are preferring Aviva at the end are doing so because of a relationship with the brand. So let's have a look at the reasons for final preference across three different brands. We've got Aviva, LAYA, and we've got GLOHEALTH. And what we're looking at here is the reasons for final preference for the people who chose one of these brands as their final preference. I've highlighted I trust the company for Aviva, and the reason why I've highlighted it is because it's the only area in which Aviva over-index against LAYA. In every other area in terms of final preference, LAYA is over-indexing in terms of final preference and the reasons for it against Aviva. So best policies for my needs, good policy options, I've used them before, there can be plenty of options to choose from, and the website helps me to compare options. So LAYA are really advancing in this market and in lots of ways are becoming more preferable to people who are in market and looking for health insurance. So this slide here is really what I wanted to get to in terms of the message from this part of the research that we're looking at. Does the website have an impact in terms of people's final preference? So the idea being, do we want to drive people to the brand website, or are we happy with the search engine? Are we happy with the aggregator? Are we happy that they can make the purchase and make the decision about our brand somewhere else? Or if we bring them to our website, is there a likelihood that that will increase their propensity to purchase from us? And the answer is absolutely. Looking at the results on screen in front of us, we have 3 different vertical bars here. We have the total sample in green, we have those who visited VHI Healthcare and those who visited LAYA Healthcare. And essentially what we're looking at is, if they visited the brand website, are they more likely to have preferred the brand? So we can see, if you look at LAYA Healthcare, you can see total sample 34% choose. You can see 33% of those who visited the LAYA Healthcare website or VHI website chose LAYA Healthcare, and 42% of those who visited the LAYA Healthcare website ultimately preferred them at the end. And we can see the same thing coming up for VHI. We can see 28% of the total sample saying that they prefer VHI. This goes up to 31% for those who have visited the VHI Healthcare website, and then 24% for those who visited the LAYA Healthcare website, so under indexing, which is what we would expect because it follows with the story. So if a customer visits your website, there is a greater likelihood that they will prefer you as their final provider. So we want to get people to visit the website. Now, what's important to mention at this stage as well is that we know that LAYA launched a new website in January, February of this year, and so this also will have some element of a compounding factor on the performance in terms of final preference. So looking at this one last stage before we move on to the digital sales effectiveness. The numbers behind final preference. So, lost opportunity. 43% of those who shortlisted LAYA Healthcare choose them as their final brand. That was in February 2015 in comparison to 40% in August. For Aviva, we have 30% of those who shortlist Aviva go on to choose them as their final preferred brand. In comparison, 30% of those who shortlist Aviva go on to choose them as their final preferred brand in comparison to 37% in August. So the idea behind the lost opportunity is that we have gotten these people to the point that they have put us on their bucket list. We are within their repertoire of brands. But ultimately, somebody else has been chosen over us. All of our advertising spend, all of our brand preferences and the things that we say about ourselves to tell customers about us so that they will choose us when they get closer to the finish line. We have made it to just before the finish line, but we are failing. We are losing some customers to other providers. And so that's what the lost opportunity is. And that is a really interesting score, because if we can understand what it is that our competitors are doing that we're not doing, that consumers are choosing them for, we can change our messaging, we can tweak it, we can start to win back those customers who potentially would have chosen us. So when we look at the reasons for final preference, so for LAYA, number 1, they had the best policies or offers for my needs, 46%. Number 2, they have good policy options, 38%. Number 3, they gave me plenty options to choose from, 34%. All product led. For Aviva, they have the best policy offers for my needs. Similar first place to LAYA, however, the proportions are much smaller. They have good policy options at 33%, and then I trust this company coming in at 32%. So the reliance and the importance of the brand trust is very important for Aviva. However, the industry scores would indicate that trust as a component within this industry is becoming less important to drive people to choose them as their final preferred option. So that is the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program. A couple of key findings out of it. Fewer are visiting the Aviva website than other brand websites. In all but the case of trust, Aviva are under-indexing against LAYA Healthcare scores in terms of their final preference. Based on top-of-mind brand recall, LAYA are increasingly becoming the second choice behind VHI, and evidence would suggest that if a consumer visits a health insurance provider website, there is a greater likelihood they will consider this brand as an option. The Digital Sales Effectiveness Program, I don't have as much time here. I have about 10 minutes, so I'm going to fly through the results pretty quickly. With the Digital Sales Effectiveness Program, again pulling out some top level figures, comparing health insurance industry to other insurance industries. What are the top 3 elements that drive people to choose a particular provider within an industry, and comparing it across 3 different industries? We can see in car insurance, it's that information that is easy to understand, a website that is easy to navigate, and the ability to apply online. For health insurance, it's information about costs and payment options, a website that is easy to navigate, and information that is easy to understand. And then for home insurance, it's information that is easy to understand, a website that is easy to navigate, and ability to apply online. So the message here is that home insurance, car insurance, commoditized, seen as a different type of product to health insurance, where it's become much more involved. The risks are potentially higher, and so the type of information that they want is different. So that's an interesting thing to understand as we're moving into this particular industry. The Digital Sales Effectiveness Program looks at the performance of websites, and particularly how well or how easy do you make it for your customers to buy from you from your website. So we are looking at the doorstep of the website all the way through to the final application. Looking at the system usability scale scores on the actual screen in front of us, we can see VHI is scoring the lowest, 65%, Aviva and LAYA coming in at 69%, and GLOHEALTH coming in at 70%. I just wanted to pull them out, give you some meat with regards to the overall, what's going on in the industry. Now on screen in front of us, we have the journey that falls within the Digital Sales Effectiveness Program. I'm going to talk you through the methodology about this in a minute, but what I want to do is very quickly just give you a top level. This is how it's working. So what we've got on the axis is a sequential stage. The axis is the journey. We're moving from initial engagement to introducing options, to evaluating options, to facilitating decisions, to channel selection and application form. Initial engagement is about the concept that they have just arrived on your website. What's the value proposition? Do they feel safe and secure? Are you meeting their needs? Is it cluttered? Is the website attractive? They're the kind of things that we're measuring at that stage. Then as they move through it and they start to try and complete different types of tasks, we're starting to measure different types of things like evaluation and comparison with the products within the organization itself, and then also whether there's an element for external comparison and that type of stuff. So we can see the scores of the top performers and the bottom performers as we're moving through this. Aviva in a position where their initial engagement scores are higher than anybody else, which would mean that if people were actually visiting their website, they would have a really strong chance in terms of converting people, because the idea is that the longer you stay on a website, the more likely you are to complete whatever task it is that you came to the website for. Goal gradient effect. So Aviva already starting off on a good foot, VHI on the bottom there. And then just going through, you can see that Aviva have got 3 of the top scores within this actual journey, and then the last 2 stages of Aviva coming in at the lowest. No real sign of GLOHEALTH except for the evaluating options stage where they are the lowest, and I've highlighted the evaluating options stage here because I would like to look at the results and what's driving the numbers in this actual area. So let's talk very quickly about the methodology. We are talking about the consider and act phase now rather than discover phase. I mentioned already this is about measuring how easy it is for customers to buy from your website. We measure everything. We benchmark companies against each other, and we remove price from the equation. We use multiple different methodologies to do it, and so there are 4 key data streams. First of all, we look at customer behavior. We recruit users to perform tasks on each site, like remote usability testing. We look at success rates, efficiency, paths through the site. We also look at dwell time, how long it took them to complete a different type of task. And essentially, we're measuring navigation, signposting, things like that. We also do measure customer attitude, where we survey respondents completing tasks on a website and then post interaction on the site as well. So is it really meeting expectation? What's the level of satisfaction, and what are their opinions? We also conduct a customer audit where we request the customer to tell us what were the importance of various different elements when they were on the site. So it could be something, for example, like online chat or something like that. And then the customer gives us ratings of navigability, feel, look, and content. So finally, we have a best practice audit, which is an internal audit conducted by Global Reviews. We have been doing this for 15 years around the world, and over that period of time, we have developed a best practice audit of what the best websites around the world are doing in terms of matching needs and supporting customers as they're moving through this. There is between 600 and 650 different data points in that audit, and so we conduct an audit of each of the different websites in this particular study, and we're looking at the provision of relevant content and tools. All of these results are combined together to and measured on the basis of the customer journey. So as the customer moves through the sequential steps that I showed you on the previous slide, and they're weighted in terms of importance because one step on the journey may be more important than the step that came before it. Finally, all the results are put together, and at a very, very top level we have what we call the customer experience score. So this is a benchmark score where you can see what your score is in comparison to a competitor, and at a high level exec level you'll be able to look at a dashboard score in terms of performance over time, longitudinally. But within the customer experience score there are a number of layers, and getting through the layers is like paring back an onion. At the top layer we have the phase, which we looked at already. We have the consider and act phase for the digital sales effectiveness program. Underneath the phase we have the stage, so we have the introducing product options would be a key stage. We looked at initial engagement as a stage as well. Within the stage then we have a category, so understanding fees and charges, and then within the category we also have subcategories, and this is where we're pulling in the 4 different types of data streams. All of the results are rolled up to create this one customer experience score. So there is a lot going on in terms of the methodology. We recruit, depending on the number of brands that are coming into the study, there would be 50 people. If you're in this program, 50 people will be sent to measure your website, and then we will send between 50 to each of the other brands that are in the study. Now, it's not the same as the digital marketing effectiveness program because it's not quantitative, totally quantitative in nature. It's a mixed methodology. There's remote usability testing in there, but we also do have a quantitative element because at the very, very beginning of the study, when people are brought in, depending on the number of brands, we could have between 350 to 450 people who are participating in the study, and that's where we ask the questions in terms of what is important to them in terms of elements of websites that they're looking for a particular provider for. Okay, so that's the general methodology. So now I just want to have a look at some quick results. I mentioned that we were going to look at evaluating options earlier on. This is the journey in front of us again. So specifically I'd like to look at evaluating options and what makes up evaluating options. It's whether the customer has the ability to compare your product or services to best meet their needs, what tools are available on your website which assist customers in the decision making, what facilities does your site provide for customers to match your product or service to their specific needs. So looking at matching needs to products, within the evaluating options, the 2 categories are matching products to needs, and we also have comparing product options. Specifically looking at matching products to needs, we can see in yellow, Aviva is at 51% and GLOHEALTH is at 45%. The industry average is at 47%. Within matching products to needs, we have the bar chart below us where we can see the 5 different elements, 6 different elements upon which we are benchmarking the score here. For effectiveness of meeting needs, we can see that GLOHEALTH testers were able to complete the task only 48% of the comparison to 65% for Aviva. So these are the elements which are making up the score. That's kind of the thing that I want to tell you. Some of this is going to be task related. Were they able to complete the task? How long did it take them to complete the task? Some of it's going to be best practice audit related, so bundling products would come in underneath that, and then some of it's going to be the customer audit related as well. Satisfaction of meeting needs is how strongly they themselves report back to us that they were satisfied that they were able to complete the task which have been set for them. So we can see what is it that's driving the difference in the score is that we have Aviva at the top and we have GLOHEALTH at the bottom in terms of evaluating options. And it's really within the comparing product options there that you can see that there's a big difference. But let's have a quick look at the matching products to needs and what's driving the score. So for Aviva, stronger signposting is leading to a tighter clickstream map and shorter time period for task completion. The mean time completion was 2.21 and the mean number of page views was 6. So we will have typically between 4 and 5 tasks for consumers as they move through the website, depending on the industry. And obviously we are benchmarking the different websites against each other, so therefore we are actually using a task which is comparable across all websites. So AXA, from a different industry, another example. 60% of AXA's visitors find information successfully within evaluating options and leading the industry. The reasons why: features covered in comprehensive and third party are clearly listed and visible, clear indication of what is covered in comprehensive cover only, and it is evident that customers need to be able to view all policies and their benefits in one place in order to easily find a product best suited to their needs. So now moving to the second part of the evaluating options, which is the comparing product options, and what is it that's driving these 2 scores here, Aviva at 64 and GLOHEALTH at 41. So within the subcategory of comparing product options, we can see evaluation of comparison, ease of comparison, and interactive comparison functions. GLOHEALTH are scoring 0 for ease of comparison and interactive comparison functions. So let's have a look at the reasons why. There's no ability to compare options in a single place. There's no interactive comparison tool or table. There's no ability to print plan or results page or to share via email. The selector tool does not allow for type of need, so hospital care, extra example. From results page, there is no ability to update some of the information entered and dynamically see new results, nor there is a summary of features that have been chosen. So as I move through the process, and it reminds me, here is what you already have in your basket, or here is what you've chosen. So it also helps you to add, and it also is a quick reminder of what you've already chosen. A really, really important state indication as they're moving through signposting and navigation. To give you an example from other industries, so this is an example from Australia. Comparison options can be at a customer level or a product level. So what we can do is we can say internally amongst our products, here's an example, or we can also bring in an external comparison from a competitor. The perception of comparable is a powerful stimulus, while cognitive dissonance and too many choices may overwhelm. Having no choices may also appear to be an untailored solution. So, coming to the very end of this, 3 recommendations in terms of this study and the results that we've gone through this morning. Bringing customers to the website is key. We saw that in the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program. Signposting and navigation is incredibly important because it is ultimately that which will get them to the point that they're trying to get to for completing tasks. So the key message here is balancing call to action pages with discovery pages, making sure that the funnel is tight and that there's a clear understanding of what we're trying to achieve and what customers are trying to achieve when they're searching for particular things on websites. So that may be, use of drop-down, not hiding key things behind drop-downs, which will be a key part of the navigation. It needs to be clear, up center, up front and clear and centered, and it also needs to be multiple times if it's a really, really important call to action. And then also learn from others in the industry is another key recommendation. So we looked at really a glimpse of what's in the results here. We did a very high-level general industry overview, and there is much, much more here. And so I've just pulled out an example of some of the stuff that clients will get as they participate in this program. So you get the full research, obviously. It includes tailored analysis at a micro level, immediate access available for historical data. We have a portal. All of these results are up on the portal. You saw some screenshots of the portal there earlier on, and so you're able to work through the results and the data yourselves. But we also offer insight optimization sessions covering industry findings, competitor benchmarking, along with recommendations and improvements for best practice. Those recommendations and improvements for best practice are very, very important. And essentially that is where I come in, because I will come in, we'll look at the results, we'll see the reason why the results are actually the way they are and how we can improve them with examples from within your industry and then also other industries around the world. You can take additional advisory hours for deeper research, and then we have a number of different elements within the program. We have the digital marketing effectiveness, and we also have the digital sales effectiveness. The digital marketing effectiveness runs monthly in most industries, but it depends on the industry. And then we have the digital sales effectiveness, which runs biannually. So, thank you very much for coming along this morning. My name is Jared Farrell, Senior Client Advisor at Global Reviews. If you have any questions, my email is on the screen in front of you. Please get in touch, and thank you very much again.